This is the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. Here's your host, Corey Tusick.
This is the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. On today's episode, I interviewed Karl Stollery. Karl is a former NHL hockey player, and he's been playing the last couple years over in Europe, Russia, in the KHL, the Russian league. And he also was a 2018 Olympian. He was on Team Canada for the Winter Olympics in 2018 and won a bronze medal. So I had noticed Karl in a couple different Twitter spaces and consecutive nights that him and I were both in discussing Bitcoin and kind of listening in on everything that was going on. So I reached out to him and I thought it'd be interesting to get his perspective to see where he is on his Bitcoin journey. And he's kind of in the discovery phase and learning. But it's kind of perfect timing because he's transitioning, eventually to be out of professional sports, and you got to preserve your wealth, and then also his family owns a farm that he grew up on. So he was a farmer, and he's been helping his father take over, and he's starting to move into that role more. So understanding Bitcoin better is just going to be great for him, and he understands the hard assets and all that kind of stuff. So we get into that, see how it could help the farm. I point him towards Untapped Growth, something he should check out with their farming, communal farming that they're trying to do. It was interesting to get his perspective as he's starting to, step into these waters. And also with the Olympics right around the corner, I wanted to get his, hear what it was like to be in the Olympic Village and be an Olympian, something that not many people get to do in their lives. So if you want to reach out to me, the show email is bitcoinmadesimplepodcast@gmail.com. And then the show's Twitter handle is @Bitcoin Simply. And then I did start a personal one begrudgingly, but it is @Tusick Corey. That's TUCEKCORY. I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. So there might be some farm noises in the background.
Yeah, where there's birds chirping and maybe some sawing going on. Is that loud?
No, that's not bad.
It's not bad.
No.
Okay.
That's my future, because I did like 2 podcasts on my back porch, because we're in our current house. I don't have an office anymore. My office turned into a bedroom. And company wise, we're looking at where we're going to have a permanent office. I'm building one in a new house, but that new house is going to be on a lot of land.
Sweet.
And yeah, it's going to be so much better. I mean, I actually have to get a legit tractor, mower and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so fun just ripping around here. When you have a little land, you can kind of do what you want.
Where are you at? You're Alberta?
Yeah, just outside Edmonton, about 45 minutes just out in the country here. You're in Pennsylvania, is it?
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I looked you up quick and saw you're down there. Yeah.
You didn't see my player profile, my hockey player profile, did you?
I didn't come across that one. Must be hidden in the back pages, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's what happens whenever you don't get drafted and then don't progress beyond the club level Division 1. So
Yeah. Well, that's not bad too. There's some really good club teams down there too.
Yeah, it's funny. I've told a lot of people that it's a weird thing. Whenever you play in the club level and then you tell people you played hockey, but you don't want to kind of come in and be like, oh, I'm this great player, I played college, because there's a lot of people that do that are like, I played college, and they want to leave it open to imagination, did you play for Notre Dame, did you play for you were some big D1 school? So I always preface it with it was club, but it, like you said, there's some really good players in there. And we had I had a junior college I did for a year and a half, and we had one of the best teams I was ever on, and it was a lot of kids who were we were trying to figure out where we wanted to play, and a handful of our team we'd been drafted by the OHL, so it was one of the best teams. One of the kids played at Shattuck St. Mary's with Sid, with
Oh
Crosby,
wow,
and then
cool.
like he was on our team. It's just like, um, so yeah,
Yeah,
so it is, yeah, it. But I mean, you played college, so I'm sure you've seen, because a
yeah.
lot of kids in the club, they're the ones that like just miss out on like
Mm.
varsity scholarships and all that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely. You wanna keep playing still when you go to school. A lot of those guys, so it's a good
and so
way for them to keep playing.
I actually stretched my career out over 5 years, because I mean I was self-aware enough to know that if unless I wanted to play in like the ECHL, and like I had no shot of making the NHL, so that
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
gonna happen. So I stretched my college career out over 5 years. Like
Oh,
I
nice.
yeah, I did like 12 credits a semester. It was wonderful.
Yeah,
Um,
that's sweet.
yeah, no pressure from school, just literally play hockey and
Yeah,
live my life.
yeah.
Um,
That's kind of what I try to do. I did 4 years, but I did some summer classes and took a couple classes before I went to college that I transferred into. So it made it, especially by the end, it was pretty clear sailing, which was nice. Just
yeah.
focus on the hockey, and yeah, that's kind of what I was there for too. The school part didn't interest me as much
Mhm.
back then, but
Yep. No, it's
yeah, that's the way
I
it
if
goes.
it wasn't for hockey, I wouldn't have gone to college probably. I probably would have
Okay.
just started creating stuff, or
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
you know,
What what college did you go to?
University of
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
oh, you did right there. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. So that'd be a
Yeah.
pretty big school then.
Yeah. We were at the time coming off tailing off basketball wise. We were pretty good, but like football, we had when I was there, Darrell Revis was there, LaShawn McCoy, I mean, a handful of other guys that went on to the league. They did okay. Yeah, the best part was we upset West Virginia. They were trying to go for the national championship.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and Pitt was like 4-7 or something like that, and beat them
yeah.
in the last game of the
Wow.
year, like an upset, and ruined their dreams. So that, that was my
That's a
big moment
highlight.
at college. But
Yeah,
but yeah. So you went to Merrimack.
yeah.
What was that like?
I loved it. It was a small school. I think we only had about 2,500 students, but it was awesome for me just growing up on a farm and kind of coming from a small area, and then it kind of made it easier for me, I think, too, just to adjust being away from home and going to a smaller community kind of minded place. So that was nice, made the transition easier. And we actually had a couple of really good teams too that started out really rough first couple of years, but last couple of years we had some good recruits and kind of turned it on. It was an underdog school, so we weren't expected to do that well, but uh, yeah, so that ended up being really fun. And yeah, I love the campus, just knowing everyone, hanging out with everyone all day, and just going to the rink. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll drift back and forth between hockey and Bitcoin.
Sounds
Um,
good.
because I'm curious. The reason I've I saw, I'm like, okay, I could talk hockey with somebody, because not a
Yeah.
lot of people in the Bitcoin world do. But I think we were in back-to-back nights in the same Twitter spaces. I think that's how I was like, oh, like I was like, I saw him yesterday in a
Oh,
Twitter space.
okay.
And so that's why I reached out to you.
Yeah.
So where are you in the Bitcoin? Are you learning about it? Where are you at in the Bitcoin journey?
I'm pretty early right now, but definitely recently I've been really going down the rabbit hole on it. Like I'm sure a lot of people are recently with it being in the news more, but yeah, so it's still in the learning stages, but I feel like I've picked up so much lately that I actually understand a lot of the principles of it. It's not just something you're trying to make a quick buck on. It's a lot more than that. So that's what's really interests me about it. But uh, I had a roommate, my first year pro, it was 2012, 2013, who was already getting into it, and I didn't really know much about it at the time. And
Can you
but
dox
that
them,
was
or
my
it, can you say who it
yeah.
was?
Yeah, I don't know if he would care. Barry Goers is his name. He's a hockey player he retired a couple of years ago now, but we're good buddies. And now he's really into the whole blockchain crypto world. And I talked to him recently again, and he said he's done super well, obviously, because he was into it early, and definitely was
Yeah.
kicking myself for not listening to him more back then. But it's cool to see just someone like that who understood it early on and actually took the time to learn about it. And but yeah, it's, even though I'm later to the game of actually understanding it, it's I think it's still early, and
Yeah.
it's something that I believe in. So it's yeah, I think it's going to be a big part of the future too.
So then you sound like you're somebody that is kind of fully into the school of sound money and like, hard assets, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that. Do you have like a background in that, or just is that something that when you heard about it, it made complete sense to you, especially seeing the government's print money like crazy?
Yeah, I think it's definitely come more into the light with the current economic situation going on. So it makes a lot more sense to me that way. But uh, yeah, at Merrimack, I took business, which, like I said, wasn't super into at the time. It was all hockey. But looking back, I think it's something I'd be a lot more interested in now, and I'm starting to see things that I didn't see before. And yeah, now that my hockey career's it's coming to an end now, it's made me really look at what else I'm interested in, and uh, so it's kind of freed up more time and energy to get into other things that I'm interested in, and this has definitely been one of those areas that's really intrigued me. So yeah, like you said, it's sound money and ways to invest the money that I've made over my career, and hockey careers aren't very long in the grand scheme of
Mm-hmm.
things. So there's a lot of my life left, and yeah, it's something that I'd like to steward well, what I've earned already. And um, yeah, I really like a lot of the principles of it.
Yeah. And it's funny with athletes because the money's great when it happens at first.
Yeah.
Um, and then it tends to go away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and but yeah, if you're I was talking to, I think I mentioned this to Sean, but Sean Calkin, but for some reason, the NFL seems to be the one that's like worst at managing money. Like it has nothing to do with race or anything like that, because like basketball, they're really good at managing their money. Baseball, like you don't hear
Hmm.
anything, but like to me, I don't know. It's just you seem to hear more stories of NFL players that like, they buy like a Bentley for their first training camp and then like
Yeah.
they're bust, a couple years later. But hockey's
Yeah.
always been pretty responsible too, I think. Um, what do you think that comes from? Is it just, part of the culture? Do they teach that, like getting into the NHL and stuff like that? Do they have like resources for you to learn how to preserve your wealth? And
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the Players Association does a pretty good job of uh, making you aware of some of the resources that they have available for our use. So there was always the 401k plan that they had, and tried to provide some education with how to manage money, because it is pretty crazy, especially young guys who are all of a sudden just coming into a lot of money and just not having that education or of knowing how to manage it. Even just our standard education system doesn't really teach you a lot of how to manage your money. So yeah, I think in
because they don't
hockey
want you to
it's,
know how to manage your money.
yeah, it seems like it. It's hard to know exactly all the motives that are in it, but it seems like you would want to know those practical things that you actually need to use in life, but doesn't seem like a huge part of it. So yeah, I don't know what it is in hockey. It definitely happens to guys there too, where there's a lot of irresponsible decisions made as well. But there's a lot of really good guys that I've met over the years that are pretty grounded guys and humble and respectful, and just a lot of really solid guys that don't try to get the spotlight or try to draw attention to themselves. It seems like a pretty pretty good culture overall that way. And I think that just kind of leads into other areas of life and wanting
Mm-hmm.
to manage things that they've been given and earned too.
Mm-hmm. Um, so with your hockey career, um, you know, we can kind of walk through, but at what point do you think you realized you maybe had a shot to make it to the NHL? You know, what age? Because like, I'm sure there are a lot of people, if you're a former hockey player, you can understand. Like for me, it was like literally just like running through leagues until like 13 or 14, um and not to do a humble brag here, but it was like, literally the one season, I averaged like over 3 goals a game, and it's like you're like 12, 13. I'm like, well, I mean, obviously I'm
Yeah.
going to the NHL. Like that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And then all of you, everyone that's in that group doing the same thing all over starts to narrow and come together. And you're like, oh, wait, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did you have that kind of experience, or, when do you think you really clicked? Like, okay, I might do this.
Yeah. I don't know. All I remember from when I was young was wanting to be a hockey player. So that was always the dream. That's all I wanted to do, and very driven and motivated to do it. I think it seemed very far away though, and especially for me, I was an undersized guy and a late developer, late bloomer. So over the years, I wasn't making all the top teams growing up. I was getting cut and having to kind of fight and claw, and then uh, but eventually, I think all that hard work just paid off, and kind of being an underdog somehow just kept me motivated. And as time went on, just kept moving up. And some of the guys that used to be really good weren't as good anymore, and I just slowly developed. And as each step got taken, I guess going into junior, it seemed like the next one was college, and that seemed like a huge step. But then once I was there, playing well there, then it became, I think in college was when I realized that the next step was pro, and I could see myself actually getting a chance at it. So that's where the dream kind of became more reality. And yeah, I was super thankful to get that opportunity. But even in college, I wasn't drafted. I signed a free agent American League deal at the end of that first season, and then had a good year in the American League, and then was able to sign a 2-way NHL contract after that. And yeah, got to get my first call ups again that year, and it was pretty cool, just fulfilling that dream of finally getting there.
So, yeah. So, what was that like the first time stepping onto the ice of an NHL game? Like, a legit, not preseason. Like where you're like, okay, this is going in the books. This is, like I'm officially an NHL player. Like, what's that feeling like?
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy story the way it happened. We were in Rockford playing a game on a Friday night, I think, and after the game, just got back to the hotel. It was about midnight, starting to go to bed. And I was just scrolling through my Twitter, and then I saw I had a mention, so I went and looked at it, and it was some journalist in Colorado saying Colorado Avalanche was calling up Karl Stollery. And I was like, I thought it was fake at first. I like, what is this? Not wasn't thinking about it at all. And then 5 minutes later, I got a call from my American League coach, said, come to my room. So I went over there, and they told me I was being called up. I was playing in Minnesota the next night. So it was bad. It was actually a tough timing because I just stared at the ceiling all night. I
Oh
was so
yeah.
excited and so nervous. So I didn't sleep a wink that night, and just had to hop in a car, go to the Chicago airport, I think, flew into Minnesota, try to get a quick nap in. And yeah, then I was on the ice that night playing Minnesota. And so it happened so fast that it didn't really have time to sink in. But yeah, just stepping out for that first shift was such an awesome feeling. And my dad got to come down from Alberta too. He made
Oh,
a
that's
quick trip.
awesome.
So it was really special to have him there to be a part of it. And yeah, something I'll never forget.
Yeah. Yeah. I always love that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know if you remember, like with the family getting to see it, and be there for the first game.
Hmm.
Like, do you remember a handful of years ago when Jake Gensel broke in with the Pens and it was his first game, and then his first shot he scored, and like it
Yeah.
cut to his brother and his parents, and his brother was like
Yeah.
crying in the stands,
Oh man.
and
So cool.
it's like people don't understand like how much, because even how much parents go through, like no matter if they make it pro or not, like I've told people before that, my last game, like we got eliminated, and then we had the opportunity to do an exhibition game, and like everybody knew like that I needed one more game. So everybody
Mm.
was like, yeah, let's do this. And
Yeah.
and then like the last 10 minutes of the game, my coach was like, if you don't need to come off, don't, and I just stayed out there, and I literally like bawled the entire time. Like I was like crying, just trying to hold it together and enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And then I remember at the end, getting off the ice, and my parents met me at the door there, like right before the locker room, and like, they were crying, and just like
Mm.
there's like these big hugs and like these moments where you're like, wow, like
Yeah.
this is it, man. Like this,
Yeah.
they all the time they've spent in rinks waiting for me to get
Hmm.
out of the locker room, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So special. It was emotional too for me, just seeing my dad's face coming up to the stands after the game and talking to him and giving him a hug, and you could see it was emotional. And that's something I don't think parents and families always get the respect they deserve, because I couldn't have never done that without their love and support over the years. So
Hmm.
it's
I'm
pretty
sure then
awesome
your
feeling.
dad would have spent like 10 grand on like everything. They could have been like, here, like you can get a ticket to the game, but it's $10,000. Been like, that's
Yeah.
fine, whatever, I'm going
Yeah.
in.
No, it didn't matter at that point. It was whatever flight you could get on it, get to the game, find a way. And yeah, it wouldn't have mattered how much it was.
Yeah. So since I'm in Pittsburgh, you were a part of the Sharks organization during the 2015-16 year.
Yeah.
And whenever we played each other in the cup finals. So did you get, being a part of the organization, did you get to be like a part of that, or did you get any like black aces or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was my last year in San Jose, and I had a few call ups that year, but I didn't actually get in a game. I took warm ups a few times. Uh, yeah, so I wasn't. I was in the city for a lot of that, and actually my roommate, guy I was living with, ended up playing with the Sharks that year mostly. So I went to a lot of the games and was the part of it in that way, and playing for the American League team mostly. But yeah, I remember going to the games and how excited the city was, and I was happy
Mm-hmm.
for my roommate. It was tough in a way because we were both defensemen too, and he I was kind of like the call up the year before, and then he became it that year. So it's
Mm-hmm.
tough, but you're happy for your buddies. Like it's competition, and but at the same time you're still friends and happy for each other. So it was pretty cool to be a part of the organization for that year too.
Mm-hmm. Um, so then after that, went from the Avs, you were with the Avs, and then got traded to the Sharks. That's how you got to the Sharks.
Yeah, I got traded on the trade deadline day actually that year. So
Okay.
that's when I made the move there. Yeah.
And then you ended up in New Jersey, which my brother-in-law, I'll have to tell him later because my brother-in-law is from New Jersey and he's a huge
Oh,
Devils fan.
yeah.
So I just feel like I was just talking to a Devils player earlier, and he'll be jealous, but I always tease him. I give him the hardest time about the Devils because they've been so bad
Yeah.
the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Not while you
Yeah.
were there.
No, they've been struggling. They weren't. That was actually one of the reasons it was good timing for me, because it gave me more of an opportunity with them too, because they weren't as deep at the time. So I had a
Hmm.
little bit of a stint with them, which was nice for me.
Now you then made the move to Europe. Um, and what's that been like? And I see you played in the KHL a couple years, and then your last season was with who? With sorry, have it in my notes.
No, that's good. This past year was short. I went late to Bolzano. It's in the Austrian league. This team's in northern Italy, so that's where I played the last few months. But yeah, I was in Frölunda in Sweden the year before, and Jokerit KHL, and then Riga KHL the year before that. So,
what's the KHL like? Because it's got to. I mean, Russian hockey it's a different animal than North American.
It is, yeah, and you hear all the stories on Spit and Chicklets and podcast guys talking about it. There's some crazy stories, especially from back in the day, in the earlier days of it. But my experience was awesome. I always tell people just how much I enjoyed it. It was definitely different, just seeing a different culture and the way things operate. But I was in 2 European cities too, with Riga and Helsinki. So I wasn't actually playing on a Russian team, but it was awesome. I loved the hockey, the style of play, and just the travel aspect too, just getting to see all these places that I never would have imagined I'd be going to. So yeah, I've loved my time in Europe, and it's been a great experience.
So are you planning on to continue playing next year in Europe, or?
I think I'm actually retiring. I haven't even really said anything about it yet. So
the big announcement here.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess if anyone hears this, they'll get to kind of know. But yeah, I haven't. I'll probably have a little letter or something. All right, just thanking everyone at some point. But yeah, it's something I've been thinking about for a little while, and I'm ready to move on to the next stage of my life now.
So what I got asked then, what is that next stage? Does the farm that you're on right now have anything to do with that? Is that where you headed?
Yeah, that's where I'm at currently, and that's part of what we're figuring out. My dad's starting to slow down a bit on the farm, and we're making some decisions with that. So it's always fun to come back here, and I've been able to help him in the summer a bit in my off season, so that's been nice. And it's still kind of open as well. I'm not exactly sure what I'll be doing, but definitely things involved in things I'm interested in, crypto being one, and farming. And I like having a few different irons in the fire. So it'll be fun just to pursue all those other areas.
Yeah. All those things that I think you'll find, don't get me wrong, you'll miss it. I mean, my mother-in-law asked me like a year ago, she said, "Do you miss playing?" And like, I literally looked and like, was like, "What?" I was like, she was like, "Well, do you ever think about it?" I was like, "Every day." I was like, "Every day."
Yeah.
Like I still tell people I'm a hockey player. I'm 35, and like, just like, 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 well, I'm a hockey player. So, and then like, it has nothing to do with we could be talking about how cold it is. And I was like, "Oh, I'm a hockey player, so I'm used to it, or whatever."
No, it's funny. Yeah, it'll always be a part of us for sure. Just that playing. I'm sure it'll take me a while to get used to saying what I am now.
but once you open up, though, like the pressure to not have to work out as much is nice.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a grind. It's a lot of people think athletes have it so easy. They just get to play this game that they like doing. But yeah, it's definitely a grind mentally and physically. It takes its toll on you too in those ways. So it's almost been a bit of a relief just knowing that I can kind of take it a little easier now, and I can just do things I want to do instead of, it takes a lot of sacrifice to maintain a career like that too. So it's it's been nice.
Yeah. It's still like every year I tell my wife, like whenever the like crickets and stuff start at like the end of July, beginning of August, like I get the like pit in my stomach of like, oh God, like here we go. I'm gonna be like busting my butt now. Like we gotta get in shape, gotta get out of the summer, out of the summer training. And so it was a big relief, but I still have that like PTSD of we had
I know the feeling.
Did you guys ever run up ski slopes?
Yeah, we actually have one in Camrose, the town I'm from. There's a little ski jump there, so we used to run that hill a lot.
Uh, yeah, that's like only
Yeah,
hockey players really understand that. Like, you're like, hey, like, you want to go in the middle of August and run up a ski slope, like whenever the grass is like knee high, and like,
yeah. It sounds like something I want to do, and
yeah.
with my day.
um, okay, and then so one of the other things I'll probably try and release this around the Olympics.
Okay.
Um, but I have to ask you about your Olympic experience because that's something. I mean, talking about being an NHL player, it's like that's rare, but like you got to play for Team Canada in the
Hmm.
Olympics in 2018.
Yeah.
What was that like? The whole, what was it? How did you find out about getting on the team and all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it's been a few years now, and it's still kind of hard to have it sink in fully. Just that I was a part of it. It went by so fast and so much fun. But yeah, it was crazy because it was the year I was after New Jersey, where I was trying to decide if I was going to keep going in North America or look to Europe and do something else. So that hadn't even crossed my mind because there was rumors about NHL players not going to that Olympics that year. But yeah, it was honestly nothing I was thinking about just because there's so many great Canadian players playing in Europe too. So even with that, it's a tough team to make. But yeah, the year started out well for me in Riga. Our team wasn't doing well, but I was playing well, and I got invited to a couple of the tournaments during the season, just leading up to the Olympics that year for Canada, and didn't think much of it. Just went and had fun and played well, and they just kept inviting me back, and so then it started seeming like there was a possibility that I could actually make the team. And yeah, it was just after a game at one point during the year where Sean Burke gave me a call and said you're on the squad, you're coming to Korea. So it was pretty surreal moment. Just I knew there was a chance, but just hearing that you made the Olympics for Team Canada was just an awesome call to get. And yeah, just the whole experience was incredible. Just the whole team, just guys that have been playing in Europe and a couple American League guys who none of us would have ever expected to ever get this chance. So it was just
Hmm.
a special moment, and we had so much fun. Just a great group of guys and first class organization, obviously with Team Canada running things, and yeah, just a unbelievable experience. It was awesome.
What was it like being in the Olympics? Like the Olympic Village and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Even just I've all my life I've just loved watching the Olympics, summer, winter, just sit in front of the TV all day watching all the sports. And even just being able to go watch an Olympics in person would have been super cool. But then to actually participate in it too was next level. But yeah, just going to all the other events was awesome. Just getting to see things in person and then meeting all the other athletes, just hanging out in the Olympic Village in the cafeteria. Team Canada had a big hangout area where we just got to hang out with all the other athletes and get to know people. Was so just the whole experience was just something that I'll never forget.
And you got a bronze medal out of it.
Yeah, yeah, super cool. Just to
I
have
assume you
a
still have it.
yeah, I still got it. That's something I'm gonna hang on to, I think.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
hold on to that one for a little bit.
yeah, I still got to open it up once in a while just to take a look to make sure it actually happened. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that was awesome because what was cool too was a lot of the countries were pretty even because without NHL players, it made everyone kind of have a shot at it, and so it was very even. And it was heartbreaking the way we lost to Germany and in the quarter or the semis. Yeah, it was one of those games where it's kind of the perfect storm of things happening that it didn't go our way, and so it was a heartbreaking loss to not make it to the gold medal game. Where we're super looking forward to playing the Russians for gold, but so that was actually really tough just to be able to rebound and regroup to play the bronze medal game. But Yeah, all the coaches and leaders and staff just did an amazing job of just bringing us back down to earth, saying we have a chance to win a medal here in the Olympics. This is just an amazing opportunity. So yeah, we were able to beat the Czechs in that bronze game and come away with a medal. So it was pretty awesome.
And was Yager playing?
No,
It's kind of
I don't think he
surprising that he
was.
didn't. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
playing for some team somewhere,
yeah. I don't know where he was at that point. He's been still playing in Czech now. So yeah, I don't think he was on that team, but they still had a ton of great players. They had I think the majority of their team was KHL guys. So it
Hmm.
was yeah, definitely a good team.
Um, yeah, so that I actually liked 2018's better than the NHL. Like the
Mm,
the 2010 Winter Olympics was pretty special, just with how good Team USA was and how good Team Canada was, and Team
yeah.
USA beating Team Canada in the round robin, and
Hmm.
like the sky was falling for Canada, like everybody was
Yeah.
just devastated, and then to come all the way back and Sid win it in overtime. I mean, that's one of the few instances where I was like, yeah, I like having the NHL players there,
Hmm.
but all in all, I actually, when they announced they were going to have non NHL players, I thought it's going to be so much better competition, and like you said,
Yeah.
kind of a level playing field.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. No, it was cool. I think a lot of people were sort of skeptical at the start, but then just heard a lot of positive reviews after, kind of how people enjoyed it because it was a unique thing, and just hearing all the stories of our personal backgrounds and where we came from, and all the little storylines along with it was pretty unique.
Did Canada do like any kind of big celebration for you guys coming back with the bronze medal, or they have you at like any games or anything like that?
There's in Alberta here, we went to an Oilers game. All the Alberta, I think it was just Alberta Olympians went to an Oilers game, and we went to the legislature in Edmonton, the capital, and talked to some politicians, and then we were all invited to Ottawa at some point too. So they
That's
did
cool.
some things like that. I wasn't at that one, but yeah, it was cool just to have some recognition and be honored and just be a part of those things too.
I say that me. So you got to be. Did you grow up an Oilers fan?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was it's either Calgary or Edmonton in Alberta, but we were closer to Edmonton, so that's who we were pulling for.
So you were too young for Gretzky.
Yeah, I was born kind of right in the last of the glory years there, so I yeah, no memories of it, but it's still a huge part of this area.
So you won't be offended that I think Mario's better than Gretzky.
No, I understand that. He was a special player
What I
too.
always
There's
say
always a
is
debate.
he he's he's the most talented player that ever lives. Mario is.
Yeah, he's fun
Gretzky
to watch.
is obviously maintained his health and didn't
Yeah,
have health problems and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
longevity, he had more time and obviously put up more numbers than anybody. But
yeah.
but yeah, they're both different. It's just they used to, when I'd go to the Toronto International Film Festival, they had
Mm.
Gretzky's restaurant there, and I used to always get the 99 burger, but have them serve it to me upside down. So it was a 66.
That's awesome.
And they were like, "What are you gonna do if Wayne's here?" I was like, "I don't care. I'll
Yeah,
tell him Wayne. I'll tell Wayne to his face."
yeah. You got to
You
stick
know,
to your guns. You got to stay
yeah,
loyal.
yeah, no, but I
Yeah.
would. I mean, that's no disrespect to him. Um,
No, no. I don't.
but
I don't think you would take any.
how did the Edmonton area handle this recent sweep that they experienced? I can't imagine it went over too well.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even follow it that close, really. But yeah, just the way it's always been. It's a Canadian hockey city, so there's going to be a lot of scrutiny and people complaining and talking
Hmm.
about it. And it's been pretty rough here for Oilers fans for quite a while. So it's kind of
Well,
what everyone's been used to for a while now. But
2006 though was great. I was rooting for
mm,
you guys. Um, that had to have been probably like one of your last chances as like before you went pro to like actually
Yeah.
root for the Oilers.
Yeah, that's probably when I would have still been cheering a little bit back in those days. And was that the Carolina?
Yeah, Carolina.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. No, I remember that. There's in Edmonton, I think it was the Blue Mile where just tons of people would come out on the street and watch the game and have big celebrations. So yeah, it was cool to watch it from afar, even though I was probably in school at that point down east.
Mm-hmm. So with back to Bitcoin. So and I'm here to like, it's obviously Bitcoin made simple. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to make it as simple as possible and like kind of be the dumbest person out there and asking questions. So if you're learning about it, do you have any questions? Like, where are you at on your learning journey? Like, maybe I could answer some basic things, or we could just kind of throw some things back and forth, some concepts. I mean, what are your thoughts on, like El Salvador? I think that's when we were both in that room, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool. That the other night, that was kind of a random thing, just following Nick Carter and saw that there was a live little room going on. So I clicked on it and yeah, it was small at first. There was like 5,000 people, I think. But then all of a sudden the president of El Salvador popped on there and some big kind of crypto leaders in the space. And then there was like 22,000 people, I think, at one point listening to it. So yeah, it was random, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff that's so cool about it, is just things like that happening where there's no plan really. It just kind of happens, and you just get a president of the country that's adopting Bitcoin and just talking to
just
us
having a
people like
casual
us.
conversation.
Yeah, so that was awesome. That's what's so interesting about it to me. Just a lot of the same kind of like-minded individuals too, just that uh, really agree and believe in the principles of it. So yeah, that was cool just getting a message from you, just seeing me in that room too. And then I got a message from another hockey guy who was in there too, just and we started chatting about it, which was pretty fun as
Mm-hmm.
well. So yeah, no, I'm like I said, I'm not pretending to know everything about it right now, but yeah, just some of the key concepts, just offering that freedom, just the being sovereign. I think that's where travel's opened my mind a lot too, just playing over in Europe and just the ability to see different cultures and the way people think and act, and just some of the basic things that humans enjoy, and just what this whole Bitcoin space provides to so many people, especially people who are uh, in areas of the world that are very unequal, and this provides them a way to have more of a level playing field, I think too. So yeah, no, questions for you. I think it'd just be fun to go back and forth a little bit and talk about it. I mean, are you pretty early into it too, or is it more recent?
So I started paying attention to it in 2013. That's the first time it came. 2012. It was $100 a coin, and I told my wife that we were planning our honeymoon. I said we can go. We were going for 10 days. I said we could shorten it to 7, and I could buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin,
Yeah.
which would have been 10 coins. And I decided against it, and we went for those extra 3 days. Which, no matter how priceless, your honeymoon is priceless. So
Yeah.
I'm testing that. I get to prove that theory because literally the price of those 10 Bitcoin that we could have had
Yeah.
are going to continue to go up and up and up. So it's like right now,
Yeah.
like that was like $350,000 that we spent on those extra 3 days, but it was priceless. And
Yeah.
when it reaches 1 million, I'll say the same thing.
Yeah.
But 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 yeah, then it kind of like went away for a little bit, and then last year, or well, no, 2018, I was talking with my brother-in-law's friend about it, and he was really into Ethereum. He owned both. And so that kind of like piqued my interest, and I was kind of like poking around like the differences. And then last year, whenever the money printer, like right when COVID hit, I was like, this is going to be a problem. They're going to print money, and there's going to be devastating consequences for that. So that I put in like a little bit of money. Like I came walking out of my home office and told my wife, I said, we own Bitcoin now. And she was like, what? And I just did enough where it was like, we're going to feel it. Like if it went down, like I didn't want to put a lot in, but I wanted to put enough in where it was like, if I lost money, I'd be like, oh man. And it started to go up. So then I think it was at like 8,000. Then it ticked up close to like 10. And I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And then I learned about the halving and how the supply gets suffocated. And then I learned about the quantitative easing that's been happening, that's been propping up the market. I don't know if you know about that, or I don't even know exactly how quantitative easing works. I just know that they've basically been printing money since 2008. And it was like at that point, I think, I forget what the number was, maybe like 40% of the dollars in circulation pre-COVID didn't exist prior to 2008. And I was like, how's this happening and nobody knows? And so that was like, I panicked, and that was like 401k, everything got shoved into Bitcoin. So then I put all that in there, and I just started listening to tons of podcasts. And I enjoyed that like meteoric rise. Like, I mean, it was like one of the best times to get in and just go all in. But then I still, even just like recently, I keep going even more and more in. Like I had a lot of stuff out on other things that was coming back. And I was like, as soon as this cash comes, I'm flushing it right into Bitcoin. So I don't think I'm positive at this point. I think I'm like getting close to like even, but I'm like trying to lose money because I want to have that respect in the Bitcoin community where they're like, yeah, man, you held through the tough times.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You're a strong hand, not a weak hand.
Yeah, I gotta have those diamond hands. So
exactly.
That's where I was doing that, and then I just with the podcast, I figured this is like the best way to learn about it, is like to have conversations with people about it. And during COVID, when we're all stuck, like what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get to talk to other people? So so I'm like, it's fun because I'm talking to people like, you like that you're getting into it. I talked to a buddy of mine who like owned some, but had like not much knowledge about it. And he was like trying to learn from me. And then I've got like Jeff Booth, he's actually from Vancouver. Had him on, and like, it's just like mind blowing, the stuff that he was like, his understanding of like, have you followed him or?
Yeah, he's one of my favorite guys to listen to right now. I've been just listening to everything. I enjoy.
You should check out his book. Have you read the book?
I haven't read it yet. I've kind of got most of the concepts, I think, just from all his podcasts that he's been putting out. But I definitely need to read the whole book too, though.
He's awesome, and his understanding of like deflation, like, because what are your thoughts on that? Like, you work in a farm, so you guys see technology taking over. Like, I talked to him about, I said, for example, if I go to Target, and Target used to have cashiers, and now they have all the automated checkout. So that made sense that the price should go down. Like, inflation makes sense. I said, if there was automated checkouts at grocery stores in the 80s, and then they decided to like add a cashier, so they were like, well, now we have to charge you 15 extra cents per loaf of bread to pay for that cashier. And you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then they go, well, we have to have a bagger now too, so we got to charge you more. But now it's like this inverse. But what's that like? Are you seeing that in the farm industry? Like, it's got to be, because so much is going from hand labor to mechanical.
Yeah, definitely. It seems to be everywhere, and farming is no different. It's something I haven't really learned a ton about yet either. Just being so hockey focused my whole life, I haven't been super involved in the actual business side of the farm. But it's commodities, right? Like all this grain that we grow, it's commodities, and prices are constantly fluctuating for all our inputs too, for fertilizer and herbicides and all these things. And then just based on world events too, a lot of it's China, what China's doing on tariffs, or what we're doing to them on tariffs. So it's just constantly moving the everything involved in farming too. So yeah, we've seen everything going up in that too. Right now the prices are going higher, and everything over the years has just been inflating and inflating. And I guess it's something I never really looked into. I just thought, oh, this is how it works. And
I know. I
that's
thought
the
the same
system.
thing.
I didn't really know enough about it to really understand it. But now it's obviously brought more into the light currently. And it's really affecting things a lot more than it used to, I think.
And I'm sure the number of farm hands you needed, back in the 80s, 70s, and even, if you're, a generational farmer, grandparents and stuff like that probably had many more farm hands than what you actually need now, because of the number of, over 100 years ago or whatever, before, the internal combustion engine, like there was no tractors. So like people were, how were they seeding fields, like.
Yeah. It's crazy to see the progress in it. My great grandpa started this farm, and then my grandpa, and now my dad. And yeah, just seeing the advancement from when it started to what it is now, it's pretty mind blowing. Just going out and operating the equipment right now, it's got GPS, it's got auto steer. So a lot of the time I'm just turning on the ends. When I get to the end of the field, I have to turn it. And then, but I just get it onto the line, press a button, it sets its line, and it just drives, and I'm just kind of sitting there. So, and it's rapidly advancing with that too. There's starting to be autonomous machinery as well that just can go out there as a robot and do a lot of things. So it's cool to see the technology advancing, and that's what I like about Jeff Booth's stuff too. Is this technology advancements should be causing deflation, right? But it seems like it has to be propped up by inflation, by manipulation through what the central banks are doing, and it's just kind of propping up the system that we've been in. But it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's almost like you're starting to realize it's like a form of enslavement. And like I look at it as, on the in a very broad sense of, like, let's say expenses are getting too much or whatever, and there's too much automation. So like, your father might have to let go some farm hands, or like cut their hours. But he should be able to do that, and it doesn't harm them because things cost less. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
I forget, I think Jeff Booth mentioned it in a podcast recently, but who was it that was talking about the theory and saying that, like, our grandchildren, there's somebody in the 1930s, they said our grandchildren should only be working 15 hours a week based on advancement. And it's so true when you think about it. It's like, you should be able to let farm hands go in a way, or be like, hey, look, I'm going to cut your hours down to 20 hours a week. And that's a great thing. The good news is you can still afford everything you need to afford, and you work less and enjoy your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's wrong with that? That's what we should be getting to. I like the concept I've been hearing lately too, time billionaire or time millionaire.
Oh yeah.
You're freeing up your time, right? So you can do the things that you enjoy doing, and you don't have to be a slave to your job just to get by. It's just a way to free up your time. And that's kind of what's led me to this area too, just starting to learn about real estate and things too, about how those guys think, and it's ways of creating passive income so that it frees up their time so they can do the things they really enjoy and put family first, prioritize relationships, and all the things that are most important in life. And
Mm-hmm.
I think just that it all kind of flows together into all of these concepts.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And like that time billionaire theory is so great. I was lucky to like have that rap like kind of burn into my mind early. Like
Mm,
I didn't it wasn't the same like full concept, but I just was like I refuse to work like for a job. And
yeah.
I just the episode I released this week was with Aaron Ingles, who's a amateur golfer
Mm,
down here in the States, and he put it so well. He said, if you have a job, then like you are your own product and you only have one customer that's willing
mhm.
to pay you for your time. Like your time
Yeah.
is your product, and whoever your boss is, that's your only customer.
Right.
And that's a really bad way to have run a business if you're dependent on one customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's
so
true.
yeah,
That's a good way. Yeah.
that's like you said, like having a couple irons in the fire. That's like the
Yeah.
way to go. Like you don't want to
Yeah.
dive into one thing, and um,
Hmm.
you gotta kind of grow multiple things and not be a slave to anything. I call it like
Yeah.
a mental prison that people get stuck in.
Yeah.
They're like they're just 9 to 5, and that's their
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I think just seeing different generations too, right? Like the older generation, it's just kind of the way they're brought up and what they know.
Hmm.
So it feels like that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you need to do. And it's kind of it's a big paradigm shift when you start getting into Tim Ferriss too, 4 Hour Work Week. That was another book I really
Hmm.
enjoyed. And just like, you don't have to live this way where you just scrape and claw your whole life till you're 65 and then you can retire. And by that time you're too old to do a lot of the things that you wanted to do earlier anyway. So why not
Yeah.
shift your paradigm and start doing things right now that you enjoy and just figure
Yeah.
out how to do it. Start with your why and then figure out how to do it.
No, exactly. Because, think about how backwards it is. Like tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And yeah, you have to plan for the future, but like this social security thing, like I was thinking about with, like my uncle sadly passed away like 10 years ago. And he passed away, I want to say like less than a year after he retired,
Mm,
you know? And I was like, so first of all, that just sucks in general.
yeah,
But,
it's tough.
um, but like you work your whole life because and I've this is one of my working theories is that like mine and yours parents generation is like going to go down as one of the most screwed over generations of all time, um because like we made them go to like a pointless war like Vietnam.
Yeah.
um they've lived through hyperinflation. They
Mm,
got stuck on like eating bad food and not knowing that it was bad for them and all that
yeah.
kind of stuff. And then they also just had it built into them that like, yeah, you work X number of hours all the way until you turn 65 and then you retire. um
Yeah.
so they paid that social security the whole time, and then if you die you don't get to use it.
Yeah.
So they just
Yeah.
that money's just gone.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Disappeared. Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing is that I enjoy about Bitcoin is just it's yours. It's your personal responsibility. Yeah, it's verifiable, it's portable, durable, scarce, all these things that
you keep it
it's
in
your
your head.
personal property. It's your property rights, which is you're not giving it to someone else to control and kind of just have to rely on what they do with it.
Yeah. And one thing I was looking at too with that El Salvador bill is um if you spend Bitcoin down there, 3 Bitcoin, you get to be a permanent resident.
Yeah, yeah. I saw that.
And I was thinking to myself like, oh, start up like a mining rig or something um
Yeah.
on the volcanoes.
That's so cool. I've been watching those videos. It's unreal.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like you said, with it being like property that can't be taken from you, is that
Yeah.
like I feel like do you think more people are going to start making it legal tender, at least smaller countries? Because in the US and Canada, it's if you withdraw it, it's capital gains tax, like
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. It seems like there's already other countries that are going to follow suit, it looks like. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with regulation. But yeah, even just how different countries are treating it. And uh, that's one thing that I guess being a Canadian too, I've been able to be a non-resident and living in other countries. Whereas an American, for tax, you pay tax no matter what, wherever you are. But uh, yeah, so seeing some of the countries treat it differently too is appealing, and it's going to draw that investment into the country. I think when they
Mm-hmm.
start adopting things like this, it's gonna have a huge positive effect on jurisdictions that are supporting it and drawing investors to it.
Yeah, I mean, I even saw somebody last night say they were like, "Hey, 3 Bitcoin for permanent residency in El Salvador, it's great, but Costa Rica, it's like $65,000 to be a permanent resident."
Oh, okay, yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, I saw somebody I did. It's funny, I did this, and then I saw somebody else write down. They said I didn't have Googling gun ownership rights in El Salvador on my June 2021 bingo card, but here we are.
yeah. Yeah, there
And
we are.
I was like, well, yeah, I literally did it like 10 minutes before I saw that tweet. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
um,
man. Yeah, it's
like,
cool just learning all this new stuff and seeing things come out.
and the thing I like about it is that it's like, people like me and you, and like yesterday I talked to um this guy Javier down in Venezuela, and it's like everybody. I was told my wife yesterday. I said everybody I talk to that's like into this is like are people that could like all hang out together. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
like,
that's what I love about it, the community of it too.
yeah, it's like they all get along so well because
Yeah,
we're the type of people that are okay with people having different opinions.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Except
not
if you're
not trying to force our views on anyone. Just it's
um
relatable.
so I haven't even asked, what do you guys farm up there?
Yeah, our main crops are wheat, peas, canola, and barley. That's normally the four big ones in this area. So that's kind of what we stick to.
So I drink a lot of what you guys farm. A
Yeah,
lot of barley and wheat.
yeah, exactly. That's our hope. We want to get the malt barley. So that's the stuff that gets used for beer.
Um, oh man, I want to come up there and just like start home brewing on your farm. And uh, did you get frozen there? I think we're frozen. Just wait a second. I think we froze for a
Yeah,
second there.
we're back.
Um, uh, so do you guys do home brewing up there?
I haven't gotten into it. I've done some of the other stuff like kombucha and fermenting
Hmm.
vegetables and stuff, but
Well,
yeah,
especially while you're
that's
still
something I'd like to
playing,
get into.
while you're still playing, you can't drink a lot of beer.
Yeah, exactly. That could be a dangerous road to go down. Maybe now's the time to do
Yeah. Um,
it.
the have you seen his name on Twitter is Untapped Growth, and
I don't think so.
um look up I'll send you the link afterwards, but for anybody
Yeah,
listening, John Vallis, he has Bitcoin Rapid Fire. I don't know if you've heard his podcast before.
no, no.
Um, I think he lives all over, but was for COVID stuck in, I think, near like Newfoundland or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and and he had these two guys on, their farmers, and I think one of them's in like the Alberta province,
Hmm.
and they are working on getting Bitcoiners together to like for the beef industry
Okay.
to like help manage that. So it's something that you probably would be pretty interested in because you know
Absolutely.
their their thing is, and I'm sure you see it, like, Bill Gates owns more farmland than like anybody else.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Seen that.
that kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, yeah. It makes you want to know what's going on there too.
Yeah, like, are we going to be
Yeah,
eating like synthetic beef or like what
yeah.
in the
No,
world is
not
going
as long
on?
as I'm farming. I don't want to let that happen.
Are you guys like like an organic farm, or how does
No,
that
no, it's
work?
not. Yeah, it's not. It's conventional. We do have uh, farmers around us, a couple of them that are organic. One of our neighbors I used to work at when I was younger, it was a chicken farm, and they're fully organic, so they supply a lot of the organic meat around here. But yeah, it's something. It's kind of a little bit of a conflict for me because I myself like to eat organic, and yeah, so I normally wouldn't even be eating the stuff that my this farm has been growing. So it's something that I'm interested in to
Maybe
maybe try and
transition.
transition it to that. And I know it would be a huge undertaking, but it would also align with more of my beliefs for myself too. It's just, yeah, that's the way it's been done for
Hmm.
my whole family's generations. It's how most people do it, and it's the way that uh, it feels like it has to be done to make enough food, and there's all these reasons for it. But yeah, it
Yeah.
would be something that I'd be more interested in exploring now too.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like whenever anybody that's, in our parents' generation, I don't want them to think that like we're talking down to them, because I feel
No.
like a lot of times they think we are looking at them like, how could you do this? But that's my
Mhm.
theory of like how they're the most screwed over generation, because they didn't know any better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
GMOs and all that kind of stuff. There was no data, no science on
Right.
it.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know, so anyone, like if you're a farmer and you're not organic farming, it's like, well, how can you can't blame the person? Like
No. Yeah.
they
No.
didn't
It's
know
yeah.
till
It's
recently that it could
right.
be bad.
Right. Yeah. And it's what you're being told and educated on too. So it's actually it's seems like the right thing to do too, based on what you're being told. But it's yeah. It's always a struggle to think critically to know what's true and what's not with that too, just because everything is so controlled by massive companies and that own all the patents to all the seed and all the herbicides and things like that.
Hmm.
So it's when they're the ones funding the studies too, it's kind of difficult to know
Yeah.
what's real and
Well,
what's not.
I know, right?
But yeah,
It's and then seeing like, the seeds are the um like how they're neutered.
yeah,
It's just like
yeah,
when I learned that was one of those mind-blowing moments, because you're like, well, yeah, no, you should be able to take an apple and take the seeds out of it, plant them,
yeah,
and
yeah.
grow the food,
Right.
but you can't because they manipulated it. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
that's a
No,
problem.
it is. Yeah, yeah. I think it takes time to realize those things in the long term. I think too, in the short term, it's tough because you haven't seen the long term effects or evidence. But yeah, might be seeing that a bit more now.
Yeah, you'll definitely like these guys, because they were talking about how like to replenish the land and take care of the soil, and
Mhm.
make sure that it produces better, but like you're not over producing on the land, and
Yeah,
you know properly shifting.
yeah,
um to give you an idea of how like dumb I am, like, and I'm not from like the city, but like, you know and not a farmer at all. And then
hmm
we're driving around looking at land, and and I
yeah,
said
yeah.
to my wife, I said, look at all this land. Like, this is like a farm nearby, but they're not using this land.
Mm.
Like, so we should just go ask them if we can buy some of it. And she was like, she was
Yeah,
like,
it's easy.
she's like, they rotate the crops. Like like,
Yeah,
she's like,
yeah,
there's that land isn't being farmed this summer
yeah,
because they're rotating. And I was like,
yeah.
she grew up out there, so she was like, I was like, I don't know.
There's a lot that goes into it that most people don't know about. Yeah, that's one of the big things is crop rotation. You can't just keep growing the same thing on the same piece of dirt over and over. It needs to be
It starts stripping
rotated.
the nutrients, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's so many things that go into it. So that's what I've enjoyed too. Just I have a different perspective, I think, too, just growing up on a farm, but then living in a lot of big cities and playing with a lot of people who know nothing about farming. It's pretty cool just to
Yeah.
like it's kind of mind blowing for them when it's like, you grew up on a farm, like what is that? And yeah, so it's been kind of fun having some of those conversations over the years. I kind of get to see it from both perspectives too.
How many acres do you guys have?
This year we're doing about 3,000 acres. Yeah, some of it's rented, decent amounts owned, but yeah, it's kind of, for the prairies out here, it would be considered maybe a small, below average farm, kind of in that area. There's some huge farms, and that's the way farming's kind of gone. It's used to be a lot of people with a lot of farms, but now it's not very many people with really big farms. So it's kind of been scaled to large scale companies basically operating farms. But yeah, that's the great thing about it, is it's, people always need to eat. It's just always a necessary thing. So it's been a good industry, obviously, providing food for people.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you go. I don't want to hold you up. I'm sure your dad's probably waiting for you to get back out in the field. So.
Yeah, there's always work here. It never ends.
Yeah, you never. Did you ever? You know the comedian? Oh my God, why is it? I've talked to him, and why is his name? He talks about he had a special on Amazon called "Where the Field Corn Grows."
Okay.
And he's from like Missouri. And he said that he was like, I drive around the country and I see, he's like, you know, it gets so late at night and I don't see any farmers out there like still working till like the sun goes down. And he's like, he's like, didn't we have this daylight savings so you guys could work more? He's like, I don't want to. He's like, we were all sad for 6 months because of the sun going down at 4 o'clock because of you guys. So you better be out there working. Funny.
Yeah, I gotta find that one. I haven't heard that one. My dad would love that.
Yeah. So
yeah,
and I'll try and I'll make sure I send you that link, but I'll to the podcast too. But I'll send over I'll send it over. Maybe try to connect you guys too, because they're really into, you know, like they want to invest in that. They're bringing in investors. They're, you know, so if you're looking to transition, they'd probably be good guys to talk to and help.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll look out for that. That's something I'd be really interested in.
And yeah, where can people find you? Just on Twitter, where you're lurking? Is that where you're lurking?
Yeah, I don't even use Twitter really. Like, I don't tweet anymore. I used to. I didn't even look when my last tweet was, but I like it because it seems like a lot of the Bitcoin guys are on there. So I mostly just follow guys. But yeah, I think it's Stollery K. If anyone wants to chat on there, I'm always looking to meet new people and talk to anyone who's interested in this stuff too. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for coming on, Karl. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.